Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people looking to live life at their peak potential. Chock full of real-world tools and knowledge that you can apply in your life today. By providing you with a lens into the lives, beliefs, practices, and actions of those who are already living extraordinary lives, the Performance Enhancing Podcast will help you shift your mindset or create that change in your daily rituals and habits so you can explode with success in the areas of life that are most important to you. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Ilan Ferdman.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to a Performance Enhancing Podcast, Pep Talks as I like to call them. We're about to jump into another Have It All webinar. This series has been fantastic. The results have been amazing. Your feedback has been amazing. And in this particular one, without ruining too much, we're going to talk about addictions and why it is that you keep repeating the same patterns over and over and over and over and over. So like an addict is addicted to cigarettes or alcohol or sex or drugs or whatever it is, you, my friend, whether you want to believe it or not, are addicted to the life that you have. So the things that you're happy about and the things that you're sad about and the things that you're pissed off about, you're addicted to them. And we're going to explain to you what's happening in your body and how you can start breaking up that addiction. So without any further ado, enjoy this part one of the addiction series on the Have It All webinar. Section that we're doing, the Have It All webinar series, is a lead up to our live event, which is in November. It's in San Diego. This will be our second round. It's November 3rd through the 5th. It's a 2.5-day event. There's an opportunity to join us as a VIP for an extra day, which we can talk about at a later point. And we also have a coaching community called the Have It All Academy, where we coach live one-on-one in a group, not one-on-one, live in a group setting, and we meet every 2 weeks. So
we'll give you more information towards the end of the webinar.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone here from that group. No, but in any event, that's something that we are really, really passionate about. We absolutely love the Academy and our Satorians in there. And this is our way of basically sharing some of that information, the way that it operates with you. And hopefully if this resonates with you, as it did for some of the people already on here, you will find your way to either our live event or our academy. So the intention of the series, it's going to probably be like an 8 or 10 part series. We haven't quite nailed down exactly how many parts, because when we have these sessions, it like sparks other ideas and we're like, oh, we should add that. But the idea is that we're going to start a series where we go through this type of curriculum. By the way, this is not at all what we talk about at the live event. This is all different information at the live event. We do a lot of exercises. It's very experiential, much more than we can do here. But this is just to give you a taste of how we operate, how we train, what we believe in, and what's possible for you. I'll just tell you that this is our 4th of the series. After the second one, we got emails from people. Nina was actually one of them, and then another gentleman was another one, that just completely transformed their relationships with their dad, Nina with a significant other. Like, it was just monumental shifts. And these are just, we're going to give you practical, what we call practical spirituality. This is just easy to implement and apply, or I should say simple to implement and apply, not necessarily easy at times, so that you actually get results like now. The idea is get you the wins, right? So that you can keep coming back to the source that got you those wins. And by source, I don't mean us. I mean like source, God, universe, community, whatever you want to call it. And that's really the intention. So today we're going to delve into a new topic. We don't even do this at the live event, so you're going to get this total new information. If you've ever seen there's a piece of this in our Mindfluence course, right?
About addictions, yeah.
About addictions. Okay. So the idea today and the conversation we're going to have with you, each one of these sessions, we discuss a certain distinction. We're going to share some stuff with you and then really keep this open-ended ask you guys questions, have you guys respond. As stuff is coming up for you, okay, please, please, please drop it either in the Q&A box or the chat box. Like if something's not clear, if something popped up for you, we can bring you out here live. We can personally coach you here. So just keep that in mind. But what we're going to talk about today is why you keep doing the things that you do over and over and over again. Like, why does it seem like no matter what you do, you keep producing the same results over and over and over? Why do you keep putting yourself in the same business situations? Why do you keep putting yourself in the same relationships? Why do you keep going back and forth and eating candy bars? And like, why do you do the things that you do that you're just like, stop it. I told you I'm not going to do this again. And then you keep finding yourself doing it over and over and over. So, you want to take it over, or you want me to just lay down the groundwork?
Why don't you lay down the groundwork, and then I'll start taking them through exercises to start identifying this stuff, and we'll get a little bit deeper into the conversation. So the whole intention of these conversations is not to convince you of anything or make you believe something. In fact, like we invite you to listen newly, right? Mostly we invite from kind of like our opinions. So it's like, what do I agree? Do I disagree? Is this right? Is this wrong? And guys, we get you all have all sorts of backgrounds and mastery in life in different areas, and all that stuff can come here and just make those judgments and assessments about it. We're here to offer a conversation that gives access to something. And what we're really looking for is like a new way of thinking and approaching things that you deal with on a daily basis, but seeing it from a different paradigm. So you have access to a whole new world about how you're being, actions you're taking, and the results that you can get. And when we say like practical spirituality, what we really want to give you access to is how, like, a performance-based way of being in action that you currently don't have access to. So Elon's going to lay down the groundwork, and then I'm going to start asking you questions so that you can inquire for yourself and gain insights for yourself, right? And again, it's not about convincing or telling you how things are. We're going to be inquiring, and we continue to inquire, just like we hope that you guys will too.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Like, you want to think of this whole thing as one big inquiry. There is no right answer, and I'll prove to you how I know that. Because what you believe today, if I asked your 10-year younger self, you would have given me very different beliefs. Now, there might be a few that stick around, right? But ultimately, like, our truths, the thing that we hold so dear, are constantly evolving. And the greatest masters in the world, the more, like Socrates died with the belief that he knew nothing. The greatest teachers and the greatest masters in the world are in a constant state of learning. They are clear that they know nothing. And I mean, I don't know about Guy, I'm sure you can agree with this. Like, it feels like when I started down this path, I thought I found an answer. And like, the longer I've been on the path, I've realized that I know shit. Like, I really don't know anything. And it's a great, great place to be in the inquiry. So we're going to ask you questions, and you don't have to have the right answer. Just have an answer. Like, whatever it is that came up now, that's your answer for now, right? 2 days from now, 2 years from now, 20 years from now, that answer would be completely different. I mean, I was just at a course the other day, and the guy wrote one of the course was called the Wisdom Course. It was one of our favorite courses that we've ever done. It was a 10-month long course, and he wrote it 30 years ago, and he just did this almost like a beta of a new course. And Guy flat out asked him, he's like, "Hey, Brian, why did you decide to do this now?" And he goes, the last one I wrote 30 years ago, my perspectives on things have changed a bit. And I'm sure you guys would agree with that. Like, things just change. So with that being said, addictions. So one of the things that we really, really love is neuroscience, right? So when we first started doing what most people will call like woohoo work, personal development type stuff, it worked. I mean, it flat out worked. I mean, the results in my life were clear. And I just knew this shit worked. I just had no idea how. Then we started learning about neuroscience and what happens in the brain, and neurons firing and breaking certain neuronal patterns and things like that. And all of a sudden I went, oh my God, that's what I've been experiencing. That's why I've had these shifts in my life. And so it became very apparent to us that this is an arena that we really wanted to delve in, because it brought the woohoo down to a scientific level where you can explain to someone like, hey, by the way, this is physiologically what is happening in your body while you're doing X, Y, and Z. And then the person understands what's happening in their body. So addictions. I want to, if at any point none of this is clear or something's not clear, please write that in the comment box. So what happens is over time, from a very young age to a very, as you keep progressing in life, you train your body and your brain to affix on certain things that it gets juice from, okay? Now, the ones that are great, right, that like you can form great addictions and great habits, and all that means is that every time you do X, your body releases chemicals like dopamine or serotonin or things like the pleasure receptors are firing in your brain, and that basically tells the brain and the body, ooh, I really like this, do more of this, okay? It's almost like when you give a dog a treat, right? Every time you give a dog a treat, it's like, ooh, I want to do more of that because I like these treats. So think about in your body, that's what's basically happening. Your brain is just giving you treats. Now, that's all good and well for the things that are great, but we're here to talk about the things that are at times maybe derailing your life or aren't having you achieve the success that you necessarily want or stopping you from creating the life that you really want. And so what happens is your body gets addicted to this chemical release, okay? So an easy way to look at this is people who are overweight, okay? People who binge eat or snack all the time or all this stuff, and you just feel like you can't control yourself. The reason that is every time you stick a donut or a candy or a sugary drink in your body, the receptors in the body are like, woohoo, party! And then treats. The problem is this stuff dissipates after a while, and what you're left with is like this, oh God, why did I do that? I swore I wouldn't do that. But here's where it gets really tricky. Just like an addict to any sort of drug, okay, your body craves that dopamine. It craves that rush. It craves that good feeling. And it will consistently put you into situations that can allow it to gain that rush. So food's a real easy one to see it with. But let's take it a step further. If you find yourself that no matter what in relationships, you end up having cataclysmic explosions, right? Like everything is really, really great for a few months or a year or whatever, and then every relationship ends in just a massive, massive fight. Something to consider, this is not like this is true, but something to consider is that you're addicted to the explosion. That explosion, that fight at the end is what gets you that juice. Your body, I'm sure you don't enjoy it, but in that moment, when it is happening, your body gets that rush. And so what it will do is it will actually create and attract very specific people to your life that it thinks can create this rush experience, that can create this explosion. And this goes for everything. Whether you've had bad success in business time and time again, it's like you get to a certain point of income and then it drops off the cliff. That's because that's the addiction. The gaining it all and then losing it. The gaining it all and losing it. And then you get on this perpetual circle. If you have fights all the time or arguments all the time, that's the addiction. This could be from smoking. This can be from, this could even be from a rush from like making fun of people, right? Like you get off on making fun of people in a harsh way.
This could also be just in your relationships. This could be the reason you wake up in the morning feeling sad on every few weeks or something like that. It could be the reason that there's a period of the month where you eat more than another period of the month. It's just all these programmed behaviors in that, I'll kind of give you access to through language, how you can start looking at, deprogramming them. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's really what you want to start investigating. It's like, what are the patterns? This is the question you want to ask yourself. What are patterns in my life that no matter what it is that I've done, it seems to keep going around and around? And like any time that I think, oh, I'm about to make it out, no, it just goes right back to the same thing. Any one of those loops that you are stuck in, what you want to consider is that there's a physical addiction to that. I don't know if the result is the right word, but to that emotional charge, whatever that emotional charge is. Okay. And that is why you keep doing these things over and over and over. Okay. So that's part one, unless Guy wants to add anything.
Yep.
And before we go on, is everyone clear on that? Because that's really, really important, because the next piece is we're going to talk about how you actually break these addictions. Like, what's the process to break these addictions? And Guy's going to ask you some really poignant questions to start investigating what that process is like. Yeah. Okay. So Neen, awesome. She's saying, yep, that's me, chocolate and arguing with spouse. Absolutely. Look, there's something, Neen, that you get in arguing with your spouse. And once you understand that that's what it is, look, guys, this is a physiological, chemical reaction. You are not even present when this is happening. As soon as that stuff fires, you, real you, big you, whatever, gone. Have you ever seen a child on a tantrum and tried to communicate with them, to reason with them, like us adults like to do with kids? Impossible. Impossible.
And it's important to understand that you're always getting something out of doing this. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. Like there's some payoff you're getting from acting this way, being this way, creating these circumstances. All of it is giving you something. Even if your opinion about it is, I don't like it. There's something you're getting out of doing it. Otherwise, you just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what you want to get is, like, in those moments when that rush happens, you're no longer there. You're an innocent bystander you're a passenger in a ride. That's basically at best what's happening. So one of our mentors a long, long time ago, and Neen, this specifically I want to talk to you, is in the moments that you get really heated, right? Like before the argument, this is your body going, ooh, this is going to happen. We're going to have another one of these fights. Let's do this. Right? And it just like flushes the body with chemicals. You're going to feel a rush. Okay? What there is to do is realize that in that moment, there's no conversation that you could have that's ever going to cause the result that you want to happen. Ever. You're hijacked. Your brain is hijacked at this moment. Okay? So one of our mentors said that anytime he got into this place, him and his partner had an agreement that they would go to separate parts of the house, wait till this chemical reaction calms down. And guys, by the way, this can take anywhere from 30 minutes up to 2 hours for this stuff to flush out of your system. So they go to their separate places, and then when they're ready and they're calm, they can come back and actually have a conversation. Now, they laid the groundwork before for this to happen, because I don't know about you, but if you got heated and then your partner got heated and you're like, I'm leaving, and you walk away, that usually doesn't do well. Right? Like the other person just stewing, like, why did you leave me? So you really want to make it like a known part of the relationship that this is what happens. And when both people understand, it's like, okay, this is not going to go anywhere. I need to go and cool off. I will come back and do whatever, the cool off process that you have is, and come back. I mean, I'll tell you, yesterday we were on the phone, me, Guy, and Jordan, and I snapped. Like, Guy said something, I absolutely snapped. He called me out on it at the time. I still hijacked, still kept going. Guy was like, I'm going to leave. You guys have this conversation without me. Luckily, Jordan was like, no, do not leave. We stayed on. We kind of like got through it. And then I got into my car and I was driving away, and I was like, wow, I was a fucking asshole. Right? Like, it all calmed down and I was like, I'm a fucking asshole. So I called Guy and I was like, dude, I'm really sorry. There was absolutely no reason for me to snap the way I snapped. And it was it. You know, he said what he said, I said what I said, and we're done, like done with it. How many of you guys have that kind of relationship with people in your lives where you will go out and apologize and say that you're wrong for the sake of the relationship? For us, that's like, it's mandatory.
Yeah, and I know like saying the right thing, and I'm going to point to that in a minute, how like you already know the argument's coming 10 minutes before, because that pattern is so ingrained. You know the signs probably hours before. You're like, all right, so here's what's going to happen. And you're not really doing it consciously, but while it's in the process, you can like see like a slow moving train wreck coming. And I want you guys to just like, I'm gonna reorganize some of what Elon's saying, but I like that he's given at least the world of it, and then we're going to take it down and make it really consumable, okay?
There's some really good comments. Can we just talk about those for a sec?
Go ahead, shoot.
Okay. So, Beta, you were saying, this is what's happening with me and my husband. I need my space and time, and he wants to sort this out. He wants to sort the problem out. So, first of all, you have to understand that men have two modalities. One, hunt, like go from A to B, like boom, 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 I'll get that. And the other one is fix it. That's it. That's the only way. So when we're listening, okay, that's the only way we listen. Women, totally different. Women, you sometimes just need to vomit. You just need to vent. Whatever there is for you, you don't want the problem solved. You just need someone to listen, okay? The problem is women look at men as hairy women, and men look at women as hairless men. And we're nothing alike. So Beta, for you, my question is, have you actually spoken to your husband and told him how you want him to listen, first and foremost? Okay?
And this doesn't happen, by the way, while you're in a heightened state of emotion.
Yeah, this is way before.
This is the groundwork you do before that happens.
Exactly. Like the partners I said before, like this is ground rules you set up for the relationship, okay? So have you done that? And second, have you actually told him that when you feel like you're getting heated, you realize that the conversations don't really go anywhere? So what you're requesting is that you, in those moments, you guys have like a timeout button, whatever that code word, sign, whatever is, and then you go your separate ways. And you just try that. Again, guys, if these things aren't communicated beforehand, you will never do them when you're in that heightened, crazy state. You're hijacked, okay? So one of you is always, I don't know if you've ever noticed in like arguments, one person is always a little bit more sane, a little bit more, I don't know if sane is the right word, but a little calmer, like a little, the logic brain hasn't shut off just quite yet. So it's really important that you set up these ground rules. So I would highly recommend you do that. So this is just Matthew.
I think it's also really common in most relationships that you have one person that wants to handle what's happening immediately and another person that needs time to process. That seems to be extremely common in most relationships. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
So you want to keep going or?
No. That was it. I just wanted to make sure that I give that to Beta.
Okay. So now that you guys, it's not news to anybody, I think, but we wanted to give a picture of the world of it because we're all dealing with relationships, right? Like life is about relationships. It's a relationship to self, relationship to health, relationship to spirit, relationship to your mindset, relationship to your feelings. Like everything can be seen in the world of relationships. So we want to look at and investigate, where did you start creating rules for the way that relationships are? Okay. And in all this work, everything pretty much comes back to mom and dad. And some of it goes to and obviously if you have siblings, then siblings play into it also. A really good way to see how you are in a relationship is to actually investigate what you saw your parents doing or didn't do. And it doesn't mean that they actually did do those things or didn't do those things. And that doesn't matter. As long as your experience and memory is that they did or did not do those things, that's your experience, right? And memories are rarely, if ever, related to what actually happened in reality. They're just filtered through a lot of stuff. So that's number one. With siblings, you can often look at and investigate if you're having issues in your relationships with friends or peers, stuff like that. It's a really good place to go look and investigate what was your relationship there, what rules did you create, how was the world for you, X, Y, Z, okay? So if you have a pen and paper, then I want you to at least pull that out right now and just jot down a few notes, because when this webinar is over, I'm gonna invite you to do this quick 5-10 minute exercise with yourself. If you did on the webinar right now, you're just gonna stop paying attention. So, let's have an inquiry. You can think about these things right now, but I would really recommend that you write them down, okay? So in the world that Elon's talking about these addictions that just seem to keep coming back, the access point is to look at what are you making wrong, okay? Humans have two things that are seem to be innate for everybody. Is number one, for us, it's critical to look good. And I just don't mean like physically look good. I mean like the way that the people around you see us. We're so self-absorbed that when we walk down the street and we're playing some really cool music and we have that strut going, you literally think everybody's watching you when nobody's watching you. Nobody cares. That's in your own world, right?
They're all too in their own world.
Exactly. And everyone's doing the same thing, thinking that everybody can like somehow perceive what they're thinking and how they're seeing the world and all this kind of stuff. It's a phenomenon of thinking, okay? So two things that are really important to us is number one is looking good. And the way you can validate this is when you walk down the street and you trip over a crack that's not actually there. That's the reason you turn around and blame the sidewalk for making you trip, even though you just had a lapse in presence and you tripped, right? You're always looking to blame something for the experience you're having. And then the second one is, outside of looking good, is we're obsessed with being right about everything. So we collect a lot of information because we think if we just have enough information, we could be right about a lot of stuff, which in turn makes everybody else wrong, by the way. So a really good place to investigate is what are you making wrong, because this is what you want to remind yourself is whatever you're making wrong is going to keep coming back to you, like over and over again. That's why if you keep making your spouse wrong about something, have you ever noticed that issue, your spouse never seems to like have a breakthrough in that area? Like that's the same issue you see over and over again. Like, oh, he doesn't pick up his socks, or like, oh, he doesn't throw out the trash, or, she's never listening to me or never giving me credit or whatever it is. You're making that wrong. The issue just keeps coming back over and over again. Okay. So that's really important to note. Here's things you might say to yourself, by the way, about things you're making wrong. Like, I can't, they can't, he can't, she can't, I won't, he can't, I won't, she won't, he won't. So like, I can't, I won't. And something you might say to yourself is some version of like, I'm not good enough. Some of us say like, I'm stupid, or like, I don't have the talent. You might verbalize it in different ways, but at its essence is some variation of I'm not good enough. These are all things that you're making yourself wrong or them wrong for. And whatever it is that you're making wrong for, that's where this looping experience keeps coming in that never seems to solve itself, okay? Part of what's missing there for everybody is having accountability for self, meaning responsibility. So if you take the word down, if you kind of break down the word responsibility, you can look at it as your ability to respond, right? Which means that when you don't take responsibility, you don't look to respond in the situation. So mostly people see responsibility as blame. Who am I going to blame for this? So you either blame them or you blame yourself. If you blame them, you feel righteous and correct and blah, 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 blah. And you've already seen the pattern of that in your life when that happens. And we're all doing that because we get some kind of payoff from it. And generally the payoff is just being right. And what we're losing and what we lose in contrast is like communication, love, affinity, all these things that we all care about, but we give up just for being right, which is kind of silly. So I say this on a lot of webinars. Responsibility is very distinct from blame. In our society, these two seems to have been collapsed greatly. You see this in politics all the time. You see it in our society all the time. Something goes wrong. The media is looking for who to blame. They start pointing the fingers. And again, like take a look and investigate our society. When we find who to blame, like on the news, and we're like, all right, finally, there's this person to blame. Like, when has that actually solved or moved the needle forward in our society? Okay, like they've been trying to pin all sorts, I don't want to get political, but like pin all these things on the Democrat, like on Hillary, all these things on Trump, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't matter how many times we find that they're at fault, like it doesn't change anything. So great, we found that they're at fault. What do you do, right? In contrast, for me, the definition of responsibility is the willingness to be at source. So what that means is that you take on the viewpoint that no matter what's happening, whether you're in agreement or not with what's happening, you take on that you sourced what's happening. And that's it. And from that place, you'll find that you're always looking for actions to take. So when you're having these issues with your spouses, instead of having this like, oh my God, they're doing something to me, you start looking for how you created that situation. Now, somebody said before, right, they have this situation with their sibling, and they can see that situation coming like 10 minutes away, an hour away, et cetera, et cetera. In that moment, like, I'm sure the experience is they're doing something to me. Oh, there they go again with their shit, blah, 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 blah. If the paradigm switch and it's like you got into the responsibility, like, oh my God, I'm creating this right now, you would look for ways to immediately diffuse that situation. Okay. So again, I can't, I won't, I'm not good enough. And again, you could just write like, what am I making this wrong for? What am I making him, her, it wrong for? And just complete that sentence for yourself. And you'll immediately see that you've probably ongoingly done that for a long period of time, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of resolution. Now, you've also probably spent a lot of time thinking about this issue, thinking that if you just think enough, eventually you'll have a eureka moment and you'll know what to do, and or you spend all your time talking about what you're thinking about with the other person, trying to convince them to change their thinking. And again, how is that going for you? Has that gone well so far? Has their opinion or actions or the way they're being changed? I would guess probably not. So you want to consider at some point in time, if you've been applying that strategy for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, probably not a great strategy for aligning yourself or creating some kind of completion, okay? So what I'm talking about right now is the domain of thinking. And if you really investigate thinking, you'll find that thinking is a recall action. Thinking lives in the past, and it's constantly recalling things like memories or information that you've retained over and over again. And that's all you have. So when you're trying to solve a problem that can give you access to a new future arising, and that whole domain lives in the past, how does that go? Not very far, right? Because it's not like there's new information there. You're just mulling over the same stuff over and over again. If you've ever been kept at night, like kept up at night, with your voice looping, you'll find that it just kind of says the same thing over and over again, and that's why you can't fall asleep. If you're in a conversation with a loved one or a business partner and they're talking, you'll find that this little voice is saying the same shit that it always says over and over again, and you're not even present with that person because all you're doing is listening to what this little voice is saying, and really what it's saying is just stuff from the past, like, oh, here they go again. Oh my God, I can't believe they're doing this again. Oh my God, this is happening to me again, right? Like all that kind of stuff. So there's very limited access in the domain of thinking in terms of using thought to actually create breakthrough experiences in your own life and in your relationships with others, okay? So where you can go to work, and the phenomenon we're gonna start talking about is communication, right? Getting in communication. And in that domain, if you get in communication, the phenomenon of communication is that it creates, it's a generative type of action, and it has disappearance. So those are the two sides of it. It can make things disappear and it can generate things, okay? So Elon used a really good example, like on that call we had yesterday, right? So something happened, he got triggered, some like past, and that's literally what he said. He said like, you always do this. Like he recalled something from the past and he just was just right there with like all this make wrong about it. Mm-hmm. And that's it, got emotionally charged, kind of like let me have it because his automation took in. I was aware of that and I just didn't want to be there for it. So my automatic response is, all right, well, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. But whatever, you know, we held it together long enough to finish that conversation. And then when it like subsided, what becomes available is communication again. Now, if Elon hadn't called me to take responsibility for what he did, that's like, let's sweep it under the rug. And if enough time passes, there won't be an impact on the relationship. And again, I want you to look into your own life and inquire when you've done that and pretended like something didn't happen and you sweep it under the rug. Does that issue seem to resolve itself, or does it just pop up in a lot of different ways? And I would imagine that if you've had one of those like epic fights with your spouse that lasts like a few hours and you're like in the middle of the fight and suddenly this little voice kicks in and you're like, I don't even know what the hell we're fighting about anymore, right? I assert that what you're fighting about is not what you're fighting about. It's that thing that's unresolved. And it's unresolved because no one's communicating clearly about that issue and they're making it about everything else because you're too scared to actually say that thing that would have this disappear, right? Yep. So Elon called me and got in communication and just took responsibility for what he needed to take responsibility for, and that's it. We move on, right? Like, and there really is like a release of tension in that space, and now there's all this new space to keep creating into the future. Otherwise, we'd be trying to build on top of that all the time, and trying to build on top of that is like basically putting whipped cream on a shit pie. I don't care how much whipped cream you put on a shit pie, it's still going to taste like shit until you actually do the work to make the poop disappear. It's not going to taste very good and you're really not going to taste the whipped cream. So communication, getting in communication is like doing the work to clean up the poo so that the whipped cream tastes really good all by itself. Okay, I'm sure that illustrated it really, really well for all you guys for the rest of your life.
Took in one direction.
Yeah, for the rest of your life, you'll have an analogy of poo pie every time you're in a fight. You'll be like, stop putting whipped cream on a poo pie. Okay.
I would love to, going forward, just have people walking around with their heads going, stop putting whipped cream on poo pie. I think that's going to be a soundbite for Guy going forward. In any event, Chopper here for a sec, and then we'll continue this in part 2 of the conversation. In the meantime, you have till September 15th to make sure that you get the You Will Have It All ticket. You can do that at youwillhaveitall.com/live. Till September 15th, if you buy your ticket and reserve your spot, the $297, which it takes, or if you want to reserve 2, it's $500. As long as you buy before the 15th, we will offer you a 100% refund. After that, we're going to reduce it to 50%. So if you buy your ticket at a later time, it's actually going to cost you money out of your pocket. So make sure that you go do that now and save your seat. Again, youwillhaveitall.com/live, and we'll see you on the next Performance Enhancing Podcast.